Hey, what's up, guys? It's Apollo Uchiha here, back with another part of What If Naruto, A Mother's Love. And yeah, guys, I have already uploaded the next part of What If Naruto was turned into a cult. If you haven't watched it, please check that out. And if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Yeah, guys, this is going to be a short one because my mobile is about to die. And yeah, so if you like this part, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And without further ado, let's continue our story. Sasuke took his usual seat. It was Monday morning and the start of the another week of school. Everything was the same as always. Everything was completely different. Oh, Sasuke-kun, can I sit next to you? An excited Sakura asked. He folded his arms in front of his face. She took it. She took this as an affirmative and sat down beside her crush. Isn't it terrible what happened Saturday? I mean, I can hardly believe it. And I hear that one of the ninjas who attacked Naruto was torn apart. Can you believe that? Despite himself, he shut his eyes and shivered a bit. Can I believe Naruto could tear someone apart? Oh yes, without a doubt. He was trying to ignore her and hoped she would get the hint he was not feeling talkative. Sakura noticed Sakura noticed Sasuke's depressed mood and tried to cheer him up. You know, Sasuke-kun, it really speaks well of your generous soul that you're so upset about Naruto. He turns his head a bit to look at her. I mean, I had no idea you cared so much about him that his being in his hospital would depress you. Really are very thoughtful and kind. He turned away from her without a word. Typical airhead. I'm depressed because my father was killed by my psychotic brother, and because I know one of my classmates is a monster. In all fairness, there was a reason Sakura didn't knew about Sasuke's personal tragedy. The Uchiha clan had moved swiftly to cover up what had happened. The Uchihas were a rather secretive lot to begin with. After Itachi murder and betrayal, it had been decided not to make any of what had happened public, lest the clan's reputation suffer. And since the Uchihas had a huge influence with the police force, it was not hard to believe. Sasuke had found it difficult but had agreed to not speak of it anyone outside the clan. Did you send him any flowers? Sakura asked with an annoyingly cheerful grin. I sent him a few, just to be nice since he is in the hospital. He looked at her again. No, Sakura, he said icily. I didn't send him any flowers. Sakura could feel the chill and numbly nodded and cast her eyes down. She didn't understand what she had said to get this sort of reaction. Seeing that Sakura was going to leave him alone, Sasuke looked around the classroom. There were Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba all sitting at the back row talking. Shikamaru was complaining that even though it would be troublesome, he would go with the other two to visit Naruto after class. Across the other side, Ino was holding court and bragging to the other Dimbits girls about how many flowers she had sent Naruto. Looking all about the room, he was not surprised to see Hinata was missing. He was sure she was at the hospital, probably curled up at Naruto's feet. He turned his face back to the front. He felt contempt for all of them. They were all gullible fools who had fallen for an act. None of them had the slightest idea that the boy they were worried about would probably end up eating them one day. When his mother had recovered from her shock at what had happened, he had spoken to her about what Itachi had told him. To his horror, she had confirmed that what his brother said was true. Naruto was the QB. Then his mother had told him about the Sandem's law. He couldn't even tell his classmate that sort of danger they were in without putting his neck literally on the chopping block. He sighed. In just one day, his life had changed completely. On Saturday morning had been perfect. It, if not perfect, by Saturday night, his father had been murdered, his mother shattered by his idolized big brother and become a heartless killer, and Naruto was a monster that would destroy them all one day. And one more thing had happened. His childhood had ended. Now he was an adult with a terrible responsibility. He would have to be the savior of his clan and his village, as well as his father's avenger. He would have to be the one to save Konoha from Kyuubi and then kill his older brother to avenge his father. That was an awful lot to put on an 8 years old shoulders, but he was his father's son and an Uchiha. He would bear it all and fulfill his responsibilities. His very first thought, of course, had been to alert the clan of the danger, and all of them acting together to deal with it. His mother had been horrified at this suggestion. She had quickly explained to him that all the adults in the village knew about the QB. It was a secret only to the younger generation. If the clan did as he suggested, it would be an open declaration of war, not only against the Namikaze, but against the Hyuga as well. Many of the adults might hate Naruto, but few were ready to go as far as civil war to try and kill him. Hearing that they Very next thought that had occurred to him was simple to do it himself the next time he saw him. He pictured himself as heroically slaying the monster and being hailed as a savior. It was a nice image, but the more he thought about it, the more he realized it was impossible. After the beating in the courtyard, he was honest enough with himself to admit he was no match for Naruto, though he'd be damned if he admit it to anyone else. He tried to look at the problem like an adult rather than a frustrated kid. Iruka, Mizuki, Kushina, and the Hyugas, the Sandem and the Anpu. The list of people Naruto had to defend him was depressingly long. Even more depressing was Kushina's nearly mythical reputation for dealing with people who threatened her boy. For the life of him, he didn't understand why all these people would protect the QB, but they did. Thinking about the problem and the obstacle in his path led him to very adult decision. I can't do anything while he's in Konoha. He's just too well protected here. I'll have to be somewhere outside of Konoha, and that means I'll have to be after I became a shinobi. He sighed again. The thought of having to wait so long and having to live and work aside and beside QB frightened him. But he saw no other way. Everything I do for the next few years had to be aimed towards that day. I have to gain and power and activate my Sharingan. I should probably try and get some allies on my side too. It would be easier. When he thought about allies, he had a disturbing realization. Nearly everyone he knew was on Naruto's side. They had never worried him before. He had his clan after all, but he would as well need people who would watch his back and do as he told them. Defeating Naruto and saving the village would be incredibly hard. He was going to need help. He carefully looked at the girl sitting next to him. She was still looking down at the desk. He let out yet another small sigh. He was not eager to do what he had in mind, but it would help him save the village one day. He was ready to make any sacrifice. He forced a small grin on the face. Sakura-chan, he said gently. Her head snapped up immediately. Did he just call me Chan? Yes, Sasuke-kun. He looked directly into her eyes and tried to convey a warmth he didn't feel. I'm very sorry if I was rude to you. I guess what happened Saturday was kind of had a feeling on me. Seeing the look in his eyes and hearing the concern in his voice, she immediately began to blush. Oh, Kami, he's finally being nice to me. I knew I'd win him over eventually. It's all right, Sasuke-kun. I understand. Say Sakura-chan, would you like to have lunch with me today? She began to giggle and Sasuke was immediately reminded of nails on a chalkboard. But the smile stayed on his face. Sasuke-kun, I would love to have lunch with you. It's for the village and the greater good. Great. Link break. Naruto heard familiar voices as he slowly felt himself coming awake. Shh, I think his eyes are open. Naruto-kun, honey, are you awake? A relieved and very comforting voice spoke to him. Yes, Mom. He slowly opened his eyes. The lights were much too bright. He felt really sore, but at least he wasn't in pain anymore. Oh, honey, I'm so glad. She leaned down and kissed both his cheeks. You'd been asleep for 2 days. I've been so worried about you. Well, I haven't. I knew you were much too stubborn to be anything but all right, a chipper voice said. Naruto had to focus his eyes a bit. He said, You Kakashi-ni-san, yo, he said. I've been just keeping your mom company. Naruto-kun. Naruto leaned all the way over the edge of the hospital bed and fell onto the mattress beside him. She was desperate to put her arms around him and didn't care. She put her arms around his neck and pressed her face against his cheeks. Oh, Naruto-kun, I'm so glad you're all right. I was so worried about you. She was hugging him with all her might, and his body was sore. Ow! She immediately let go and bolted upright. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, trying to scramble away when he got a hold of her hand with his right. It's okay, Naruto-chan. It's okay. Just be a little gentle next time, okay? With his hand, he began tugging her back towards him. She let him pull her back towards him. Are you sure, Naruto-kun? She asked nervously. I'm sure, Naruto-chan. I like it when you hug me. Just be gentle. With his encouragement, she carefully put her arms around his neck again, and her face rested next to his. His arms he put around her waist. He tried to put his another arm around her, but it refused to lift. It felt like it was weighted down. Is that all right, Naruto-kun? She asked shyly. It felt just as weird to be lying on top of him like this. But after the last 2 days, she wanted to contract with him. She wanted him to be in her arms. He smiled at her fondly. Yeah, Naruto-chan. That feels fun. She closed her eyes and sighed contentedly. Kushina and Kakashi were both looking at the two 8-year-old and smiling. They were just so cute. How are you feeling, son? I feel sore, Mom, but I'm not in pain. My left arm, though, it feels heavy. He finally managed to lift his arm. His forearm was in cast. His hand was huge mass of bandages. The fingers were hidden. Mom, if I've been here 2 days, why am I still a mess? I normally heal really fast. Kushna frowned. I know, son, but those wounds were always cuts or tears. You had a lot of broken bones, and whatever it is in your chemistry that gives you fast healing doesn't seem to work as well on that. It may also be that your body just took so much damage at one time. You were in surgery for over 6 hours being treated. Most of your bones have been healed and will just need a little while to finish setting. She looked very unhappy. I'm afraid your left hand, though, suffered a lot of damage. How bad is it? Naruto looked at the wrappings at the end of the forearm. The medicine says you might not regain full use of it again, he said with a panic in his eyes and motioned for him to be calm. But I've sent for your godmother. I know she will be back, and when she will heal you. Naruto slowly nodded. He knew his godmother was the world's greatest medicine. He shut his eyes and put his arm back down. I don't suppose it really matters anymore. He sounded defeated. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Honey, don't be depressed. I'm sure once Nada is here, she'll be able to heal you. Yes, Nada-kun, Hinata said. I'm sure everything will be fine now. He looked at her and smiled a bit sadly. Hinata-chan, would you mind waiting in the hall for a little bit while I talk to my mom alone? He looked at Kakashi. Would you mind too, Nissan? Of course, Naruto-kun. Hinata was a little disappointed. She had just started getting comfortable. She quickly slid back off the hospital bed. Alright, Naruto. Come on, Hinata. Let's go. Something to and grab something to eat. The two of them said and left the room. Kushina looked at her son a bit curious. She had never seen her son so cheerless. Honey, I know how depressing it can be to stuck in hospital, but it's okay. We'll have you home soon, and once Nada gets here, I'm sure you'll be just fine. No, Mom. I think I'm ever going to be fine again. He said with a depressing certainty. I'm not really worried about my hand. I'm sure Godmother will fix it, even if she doesn't manage one way or another. Well, son, if you feel that way, why are you so depressed? Because I know, he said sadly. You know what? He looked at her with eyes filled with pain. I know why everyone hates me, Mom. I know what's inside of me. Oh dear, Kami, she whispered. Tachi told you? No, Mom, the QB told me. What? Son, what do you mean the QB told you? Terrifying thoughts of what that might mean flashed through her head. I had a nightmare, Mom. In it, the QB spoke to me. He told me what really happened the night I was born. He told me it was his power that let me heal fast. That gave me so much chakra capacity, and that gave me the red chakra. Mom, when I fought that ninja, it was the red chakra that saved me. It was the QB's power that saved me. I see, she said quietly. Well, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad for the QB's power. Mother and son looked at each other for a moment. Naruto said, when are you going to tell me, Mom? I don't know, she answered truthfully. I was planning to tell you something before you became a Genin. To be honest, son, it wasn't a conversation I was eager to have. Mom, why did Dad do this to me? She took a deep, shuddering breath. All at once, she was remembering that night again. The QB's sudden appearance, the approach towards Konoha, her husband's desperate decision and her tearful agreement, her labor, her very first holding him in her arms, her begging Minato not to take him, and finally, darkness. It was the only way, son. A Biju cannot be killed by the mortal, and the Biju's power was too great to be stopped. The only choice, the only possible way to save the village was to trap Konoha Kyuubi into a vessel that could adopt and hold its chakra. And the only vessel that could do that was a newborn child with an undeveloped chakra system. Stopping the Kyuubi required two things, a newborn to act as the vessel and a human sacrifice to work the jutsu. He felt as the Hokage it was his duty to sacrifice himself to save the village, and as his son, and here he felt it was your duty to be the vessel. He did not feel he could justify asking another parents to make their sacrifices. He was unwilling to. He felt it fell upon his clan to make the sacrifice necessary to save Konoha. She looked at her son and waited for his reaction. If he was bitter and angry, he certainly had cause to be. Naruto looked down. He took a deep breath. I understand, he answered quietly. You do? Her son looked back up at her. He seemed wearily but accepting. Mom, I said before that I would give anything, even my life, to protect Konoha, he said with a small smile. I guess in a way I already have. I understand it. The Hokage's duty is to protect Konoha whatever the cost. I can't believe and blame my father for fulfilling his duty. And being his son, I can even understand why he chose me to bear the burden. He chuckled sourly, even if everyone does hate me for it. Son, everyone does not hate you. Kakashi, the Sandem, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Hisashi, and all the people on the streets who bow or cheer for you know the truth and see you as a hero, as your father wished. I suppose so. But there are plenty of people who hate me an awful lot. Kushina could hardly disagree with that. I guess it's time for me to find another goal. What do you mean? He looked up at his mother. I mean, about me becoming Hokage. Now that I know that I can never be Hokage, I'll need to find another goal for myself. She looked at him in astonishment. Son, what makes you think you can't be Hokage? Frowned at her. Mom, how can I be a Hokage when I am a monster? She sent a look of outrage and was at his side in an instant. Ow! He rubbed the top of his head with his right hand and looked at his mother in shock. Mom, you hit me! Expected when they were sparring, she had never hit him. Don't ever say that something like that again, son. That's the sort of thing those fools who hate you say. Have you forgotten your promise so soon? Do you remember your very first day at the academy, son? What did I ask you to promise me? To never forget who I am. And who are you? He looked at her confused mom. Mom, I'm Naruto's Namikaze, your son, the son of Minato Namikaze. Yes, you are. She sat down on the bed and took him into her arms and hugged him close. You are my son, and you are Minato's son. And you are a good brave boy. Never even think that you are anything else. Tell me, son, how do you feel when you killed those men at the academy? He swallowed at the memory. I felt bad. I feel guilty. And do you really think you would feel that if you were the real QB? But it was different this time. When I used the red chakra, I was happy that I killed. Were you so angry? Yes, very, very angry. And were you scared? He simply nodded. Not even. It's perfectly normal and perfectly human to be happy at killing someone who was trying to kill you. That doesn't make you a monster or demon. But mom, the seal on my belly, my helmet, the red chakra, are all part of you, son. Just as your nose, or your liver, or your little toes are all part of you, but not all of you. The QB is inside of you, that is true, but you are not the QB, and you never will be, no matter how many fools you refuses to believe that. You have its power, perhaps even its knowledge, but you, Naruto, will choose how to use it. You said the red chakra saved your life. I would definitely call that a good use of the demon's power. Naruto-kun, we all possess the capacity of good or evil. We all choose life path we take. We are human, and you have that same choice. What is special about you, my son, is that capacity you possesses. You have great power within you, but that power can be used for either good or evil. The choice is yours. She looked into his eyes, and she spoke carefully. Use the QB's power, son. He looked at her in shock. The power belongs to you as much as the strength of your muscles does. Take the power within you and use it to guard and protect this village as its Hokage. He put his one arm round her and tried to hug her tight. Thanks, Mom, he said in a voice that ached and relief. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out. Peace.